That was fucking depressing. Excuse me for completely butchering the Irish dialect, but I heard that term or that word feckin' so often in this movie. It was funny. Okay, I love the Irish dialect. It's absolutely gorgeous. Speaking of that, I didn't have many problems at all understanding almost exactly what was being said, but there were a few phrases or words that they would say that I couldn't hear it clearly. So if you have a little trouble sometimes understanding dialects that are quite a bit different than what maybe you're used to, that might be a tad of an issue, but it's like nothing, honestly. I feel like I'm so used to listening to the way they talk because I've seen so many different things that I have a pretty decent grasp on it, but not always, as evidenced by some of the instances that happened while I was watching this movie. So I hesitated to go see this film. I think this particular weekend or this particular week, it's getting its wide release, or this past weekend it's getting the wide release started. Before that, it had a limited release here in the States. Now, it was at my theater already, and I almost went to see it when it first came here during its limited release, and I talked myself out of it. And basically what I did was I read the synopsis. Well, I read the plot summary, so I knew almost everything. I mean, I already knew what was going to happen. I knew how things were going to end. I knew what was going on between them. I knew a certain plot point that happened that really shifted things. And so, you know, pretty much nothing that went on in here was a big surprise to me as far as that sort of thing. But something that I also already knew going into it, but didn't really feel the full impact of it until I was actually watching it, was just how moving their performances in this film were. Now, yesterday I saw In Bruges for the first time because it was a 2008 movie. We're going to have the 2008 live stream podcast or movie discussion tomorrow. As of the recording of this, it will be tomorrow, November 8th, but I don't know if this review is going to go up before that even happens, but whatever. So I knew that the director and these two actors returned for this film, that they had worked together, and their work in Bruges was just great. I have nothing negative to say about that movie. And despite the fact that this film was very depressing and heartbreaking to me, it's not a bad movie. It's not necessarily something that I would return to again and again. If I had to choose the two films as something that I would like to rewatch, In Bruges would win, just because there was just something about the way that what that story was about, and it captured me more as far as things that I like. Now, this is definitely just a character drama. There are some things that happen in here, but it's, you know, as far as some tension stuff or some little moments of suspension, but it's honestly, this is just about these people on this island and these two guys who had been friends. One's name was Colin, and the other, oh my gosh, I don't even remember Colin Farrell's character's name, but the premise of the story is, or the synopsis, sorry, I already took my inhaler. The synopsis is these two guys who had been friends for years, they live on this little remote sort of island in Ireland, and it's taking place in the early 1900s. It's a 1923 was what I saw on the calendar, which I already knew that going into it. There's this civil war going on across the water. And so these people are isolated. It's a very small community. Everybody's up in each other's business. They all know everything that's going on. So when Brendan Gleeson's character decides he doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell's character anymore, it causes this kind of an uproar, causes a stir in the town, if you will. And the whole movie is basically Colin Farrell trying to get Brendan to be his friend again. That's pretty much the whole sort of thing. But what makes it so well done, despite the fact that I'm not a huge fan of character dramas, but why I still appreciated this, is the slow transformation of Colin Farrell's character throughout the movie from someone who, you know, he's considered like a bit simple, but simple, I don't know, dull, maybe simple-minded. He didn't really come across to me as someone who was simple-minded. He was just the type of person that he didn't necessarily want really dramatic things out of life. He was content with his simple little life. I don't say I'm simple, but he was content to just have this little life on this island and hanging out with his friend and talking, and he liked his routine, and to him that was fulfilling. Well, his friend Brendan, whatever. Brendan's character, he wanted more. He was getting older in life, and he just wanted something that he felt was going to last beyond his existence. And so because of that, he decides he's tired of Colin Farrell, and he doesn't want him to talk to him. He doesn't want anything to do with him anymore, and Colin will just not leave him alone. Now, in modern times, or with today's lens, behavior that the sort of behavior that Colin Farrell exhibits in this movie would come across as very like, what the heck, you know, stalker. But hold on a minute. What was I saying when you walked in?
Sound like you were saying stalker.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yeah. See, I was already forgetting what I was saying. Yes, what I was saying was, oh yeah, stalker. If you use today's sort of knowledge and sensibilities and understanding about certain behavior, and you attach it to the way Colin Farrell's character is acting, he would come across as stalkerish. But honestly, because of the time that this movie takes place in and the setting, this little remote island and this small community, and it really didn't, like, if this movie were set in today's time, it would be creepy, right? The way he's acting, it would be like, well, that's really kind of, you know, but it really didn't come across that way. And I think it's because life in this little place is so simple and basic and nothing too complex. And it seems more heartwarming and sweet as opposed to something super creepy. But as events go on and Brendan Gleeson makes it very clear that he wants nothing to do with Colin Farrell, and there's so many interactions between them, things escalate to a tragic and disturbing point. I mean, there are some things that happen in here that are it's like, what the heck? So the sad thing about this story to me is that I understand where both of them are coming from. I get Brendan Gleeson's sort of ruminations and what he's thinking about and how he just kind of wants to sort of take his life into a bit of a different direction. And at the same time, I get the heartbreak that Colin Farrell's character has. It seems so unfair the way he's treated. I feel like, and I had a conversation with someone in the bathroom after the movie because there weren't a lot of people in the theater, but there was a couple, and one of the ladies, I don't know where she's from. She's not from here, but she said that she had lived in the UK for like 25 years. She was very familiar with Irish people, and that was why she came. She loved these two actors, and she and her husband wanted to see this. And so we were talking about this movie, and we were talking about how we understood where both of these men were coming from. That's the sad thing about this is you can get it. You get both of their sides, but they both cross this line. So Brendan Gleeson's character, the way he just sort of completely cuts Colin Farrell off seems very cruel. And it's heartbreaking to see Colin's character not understanding what's going on and feeling really sad, like, and these things escalate in his life, and it just seems like one thing after another thing after another, like these losses that he goes through, the loss of his friendship and a couple of other losses that happen. And it's very hard for him to deal with because that was his whole life, and then, and so because of how cruel the cutoff of friendship was, he was driven to do things that stepped over the line himself. Okay. And so that's the complexity of this story. I mean, there's just all these conflicting feelings as I was watching this. I just felt sad. I just felt so sad for both of them. And I felt sad for his sister. That's her there. She's kind of, she seems like she'd been, no, not really. She's not content with island life. She wants something more. And so there's a bit of that sort of thing that's at play. But this really is mostly a story about these two friends, or ex-friends, if you will. And it's just, I don't know, there are some moments of such sweetness in here and tenderness and complex feelings and emotions. And at the same time, it's also funny. There are moments of comedy in here. It's mostly, just like with In Bruges, a lot of the comedy is dialogue driven. The difference is this film is not as funny to me as In Bruges was. In Bruges had this weird, this weird contrast between things that were literally laugh out loud funny at the same time that something awful was happening or getting ready to happen, or the threat of something bad happening. This is funny, but it's more of a muted humor. And while I had some moments where I was chuckling out loud just because of some of the things that were said, it certainly wasn't to the same extent as how In Bruges made me crack up. So fundamentally, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't know if I would watch it again. These two actors, their presence, as well as the presence of the director, they were the main reason why I ended up deciding to go see it. Well, that was one of the main reasons I ended up deciding to go see it. One of the other reasons was because Simon asked me if I was going to do a review, and I told him how I'd kind of gone, I don't know. And then I ended up buying the ticket and going to see it anyway. So, I've tried to give as much detail as I could without giving away too much, but it does a really good job of showing Colin Farrell's character arc and how the loss of this friendship changed him to his core and turned him from someone who was turned him into a completely different type of person, and it was sad because there's mention multiple times of how he's nice and he feels like being nice, that's like the most important thing in life. And Brendan Gleeson's like, yes, but when you're dead 50 years from now, nobody's going to remember you just because you were nice. People remember Beethoven because he left his stamp on, the world and that sort of thing. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that was those were the opposing dynamics between them, which is what caused this friction and why they just seemed to kind of, they couldn't, like, Colin just could not understand. And Brendan was just like, leave me alone. Don't talk to me anymore. And so it really feels like a lot of this could have been avoided if Brendan had just maybe talked to Colin and just said, this is how I'm feeling. And, we can still hang from time to time, but I'm going to be doing these other things that interest me. And I don't always just want to talk about these simple things in life, whatever. But obviously we wouldn't have the movie that we have if things like that had taken place. But something that helped sort of alleviate the feeling of sadness when I was done watching this is that the lady in the bathroom told me about their appearance on Stephen Colbert's show. And so I watched that, and that made me feel happy. I'll try to remember to link it in the description if you guys want to check it out. These two, which I already kind of knew anyway, but these two are really good friends. So if you're feeling truly bummed out by the stuff that happens between them in this movie, then go watch something happy, or watch something happy first and then watch this. But it's still a powerful movie. It's very moving, and there were several moments that I just felt utterly heartbroken at what was going on, and I just wanted to just somehow fix things between them. And I think when a movie elicits that sort of strong response, it's doing a really good job. I didn't hate this film. I hated that it was sad. I know it's weird to say stuff like that. I don't typically like to watch things that make me feel like that, but this isn't something I'll forget either. And so, if you like character dramas like that with some pretty heavy hitting emotional punches, and you like the combo of these actors and this director, then by all means go check it out and let me know what you think. I don't think it's going to be on the big screen a huge amount of time. This isn't going to be something that's going to really draw tons of people, because it's not that type of blockbustery sort of film, and it's not necessarily a really feel good film either. So, might not be something that's for everybody, but I certainly don't think it's a waste of time to check it out and just kind of go with the flow and experience the evolving story and the evolving characters as it happens, as they play out on screen. And yeah, I think that's all. I wrote down different things, but some of the things I wrote down is kind of spoilery, so I'm not going to say some of the things that I wrote down. But anyway, whatever. Yeah, those are my thoughts on the Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah, the Banshees of Inisherin. Okay. Well, one of the things that interested me when I first thought about watching this movie is that I thought maybe it was going to be some sort of suspense or supernatural or something about, real banshees, but no, it's not. That's just the name of a song. Okay. That's it, you guys. I'm wrapping this up. We'll see you later. Bye.